Guys, this is it, the moment everyone has been waiting for. Johnny Somali is about to learn what real consequences look like, and it's not what anyone expected. You know, most people think when streamers like Johnny Somali get in trouble, they just pay a fine and walk away. That's the common belief, right? Pay some money, maybe get a slap on the wrist, and then they're back to causing chaos within weeks. But here's what nobody talks about, and this is gonna blow your mind. South Korea doesn't play games like that. What's about to happen to Johnny Somali is so much more intense than just paying money and leaving. I've been following this case obsessively, analyzing every court document, every legal expert's take, and what I discovered about Korea's justice system will shock you. This isn't just another influencer gets in trouble story. This is about a complete system designed to break people who think they're above consequences. And Johnny Somali is about to become the perfect example of what happens when Western entitlement meets Eastern justice. I'm going to break down exactly what's happening, why Johnny's own words are about to destroy him, and how this case is already changing the entire streaming landscape. Plus, I'll show you the body cam footage that proves our justice system has some serious problems of its own. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this isn't just about one problematic streamer. It's about the future of accountability in the digital age. Let's start with something that's going to completely change how you think about international justice. When Johnny Somali said he'd just pay the fine and get out, he had no idea what he was actually facing. Here's what legal mindset revealed that nobody else is talking about. In South Korea, if you can't pay your fines, you don't just sit in a comfortable cell. You get forced into labor. And I'm not talking about folding laundry or cleaning floors. We're talking about agricultural work in the fields, picking crops, including the cabbage that goes into kimchi, industrial labor, making fish cakes, road construction work. This isn't some cushy Western prison experience where you get 3 meals a day and cable TV. The Korean system is designed around one principle. If you can't pay society back with money, you'll pay it back with your body and your time. And here's the kicker, Johnny Somali, who's been living off controversy and donations, probably doesn't have the liquid cash to cover what he owes. Think about this for a second. This is the same guy who was bragging about how easy it would be to just pay and leave. The same guy who thought Korean authorities were a joke. Now he's potentially looking at months of manual labor in conditions that would break most people within days. But here's where this gets absolutely insane. And this is the part that shows you everything you need to know about Johnny Somali's mindset. Let me play you exactly what Johnny said before he understood what he was really facing. If you guys want to know why I pled guilty, it's because, bro, do you think I want to sit in this country any longer? Do you think I'm really gonna sit there and argue with the judge over a fucking $100 fine? I'm guilty. So what? I'll pay. I'm out. $100 fine. This man thought he was dealing with a $100 fine. This is the perfect example of American privilege meeting reality. Johnny Somali genuinely believed that Korean justice worked like getting a parking ticket. Pay the money, problem solved, back to making content. But here's what he didn't understand, and this is crucial. The Korean legal system isn't designed to be convenient for foreigners who come to their country to cause problems. When you disrespect their culture, harass their citizens, and treat their country like your personal playground, they don't just want your money. They want to make sure you never, ever think about doing it again. The confidence in that statement is what's going to destroy him, because now, every single word of that clip is being used against him in court. His own arrogance became evidence of his complete lack of remorse. And you know what the most ironic part is? He's now desperately trying to make money on YouTube, uploading every clip he can, trying to scrape together enough cash to pay these fines. The same platform he used to mock people and cause chaos is now his only lifeline. Speaking of supporting content creators, if you're finding value in this deep dive into what's really happening with Johnny Somali, make sure to hype this video. Give points to your favorite videos. It helps creators like me continue bringing you these detailed breakdowns that you won't find anywhere else. The hype button is right there, and every point helps push this story to more people who need to understand what's really going on. Now, this next part gets into some really murky ethical territory, and it shows you how desperate this situation has become. There's been serious discussion about whether Hank Yu's family and Johnny Somali's family should be involved in trying to help them. And Legal Mindset made a point that I think everyone needs to hear. I don't want Hank's family involved. It's not their problem, it's not their fault. Same thing with even Johnny's family. They should not be brought up. They should not be involved. It's completely inappropriate to drag people in when they're not part of it. This is absolutely correct, but here's why it matters more than you think. When families get involved in cases like this, it creates opportunities for manipulation and corruption. We already heard that after the second trial, Hank Yu's family allegedly pressured Johnny Somali's lawyer to attend the case. Think about what that means. These families have resources, connections, and potentially money that could influence the outcome. And if Johnny Somali and Hank Yu get help from their families to escape real consequences, what message does that send? It tells every other problematic streamer that if you have family with money or connections, you can cause international incidents and get bailed out. It turns justice into a privilege that only some people can afford. But here's the deeper issue, and this is something nobody else is talking about when families get involved. It shifts the narrative from actions have consequences to family loyalty above accountability. The Korean justice system needs to send a clear message. It doesn't matter who your family is, it doesn't matter what connections you have, it doesn't matter how much money you can raise. If you come to their country and disrespect their people, you will face the full weight of their legal system. This is where the Johnny Somali case becomes about so much more than just one person. What's happening right now is creating a ripple effect that's changing the entire streaming landscape. Let me show you what I mean. We've got Joshua Block getting punched in California while claiming he's against immigrants. We've got Action Man harassing bar patrons, calling women fat, and then calling the cops when they defend themselves. We've got Ice Poseidon crew members getting citations for disturbing the peace. Here's the pattern. These streamers all learned from Johnny Somali that controversy equals views, views equal money, and consequences are just part of the cost of doing business. But Johnny Somali's case is about to shatter that entire business model. When other streamers see Johnny potentially doing forced labor in Korean fields, picking cabbage for kimchi, that changes the risk-reward calculation completely. Suddenly, the potential consequences aren't just pay a fine and make a comeback video. The consequences are months or years of your life doing manual labor with no cameras, no audience, and no donations. Look at Joshua Block. People call him autistic and use that as an excuse for his behavior. But here's the thing, and this is controversial but needs to be said. When someone is aware enough to plan streams, coordinate with other creators, and monetize their content, they're aware enough to understand that their actions hurt real people. Using mental health as a shield for harmful behavior doesn't work when the consequences are real. And Johnny Somali's case is proving that some justice systems don't care about your excuses. Now, I want to show you something that connects directly to why cases like Johnny Somali's matter so much. This body cam footage from Iowa is going to make you understand why we need justice systems that actually work. Describing the Iowa incident with the Asian woman and the thief. Watch this carefully. An Asian woman stops a thief who stole her father's phone. She pins the criminal down, subdues them, and waits for police. When the cops arrive, they arrest the woman for assault and let the actual thief go. The officer says, "You shouldn't take matters into your own hands. She could have just followed her and not got on top of her. Your daughter's in the wrong. She's probably going to go to jail for assault." This is exactly the kind of broken thinking that allows people like Johnny Somali to thrive. When the system punishes people for defending themselves and protecting their property but gives passes to actual criminals, you create an environment where bad actors know they can get away with anything. The woman had video evidence. She caught the thief red-handed. She used reasonable force to stop a crime in progress, and the police treated her like the criminal. This is why Johnny Somali thought he could get away with everything he did, because he's seen systems that protect the wrong people and punish the right ones. He thought Korea would be the same way. But here's what he didn't understand, and this is crucial. Not every justice system is broken the same way. Korea's system has its own problems, but when it comes to foreigners disrespecting their country, they don't mess around. Let me show you how deep this problem goes with the streaming community. Action Man, who's part of the Ice Poseidon crew, goes into a bar, harasses patrons, calls a woman fat, and when she pushes him away, he calls the cops on her. The police actually gave him a citation for disturbing the peace. Finally, some accountability. But think about what had to happen for that to occur. He had to harass multiple people, create a public disturbance, and essentially force the police to act. This is the Johnny Somali playbook in action. Cause problems, film the reactions, monetize the chaos, and when people defend themselves, play the victim. But here's what's changing. Police departments are starting to recognize this pattern. They're seeing that these aren't just random incidents, they're coordinated content creation strategies that harm real people and communities. When Johnny Somali gets sentenced to forced labor in Korea, it's going to send a message to every action man, every Joshua Block, and every wannabe controversy streamer. The world is getting tired of your act. Here's something that goes way deeper than just streaming drama. What Johnny Somali represents is a clash between two completely different philosophies about accountability and respect. In Western culture, especially American culture, we've created this idea that if you're entertaining enough, controversial enough, or popular enough, you can get away with almost anything. We've normalized the idea that it's just content is a valid excuse for harmful behavior. But Korean culture operates on completely different principles. Respect for elders, respect for society, and respect for order. These aren't just nice ideas, they're foundational values that their legal system is designed to protect. When Johnny Somali mocked Korean culture, harassed Korean citizens, and treated their country like his personal content farm, he wasn't just breaking laws, he was attacking the fundamental values that hold their society together. And here's what Americans don't understand about that. In cultures that prioritize collective harmony over individual expression, the punishment for disrupting that harmony is severe. It's not about the specific crime, it's about the disrespect to the entire social order. This is why Johnny's case matters beyond just one problematic streamer. It's about whether the internet age means that cultural boundaries don't matter anymore, or whether some societies will fight back to protect their values. Let's talk about something nobody else is discussing, the actual economics behind why streamers like Johnny Somali do what they do. Controversial content is incredibly profitable because it generates extreme emotional reactions. Extreme emotions drive engagement. Engagement drives algorithm promotion. Algorithm promotion drives views. Views drive ad revenue and donations. Johnny Somali understood this formula perfectly. Every racist comment, every cultural insult, every moment of harassment was calculated to generate maximum outrage, which translated directly into maximum profit. But here's what he didn't calculate: the cost of real consequences. When you're making thousands of dollars per stream from controversy, paying a few $100s in fines seems like a reasonable business expense. But when the consequence is months of forced labor with no income, no audience, and no platform, the entire economic model collapses. This is why other streamers are watching Johnny's case so closely. If Korea successfully breaks the controversy to profit pipeline, it could change how content creators calculate risk across the entire industry. What's happening with Johnny Somali isn't just about one case. It's about setting a legal precedent for how countries handle problematic foreign content creators. Korea is essentially saying, we don't care how many followers you have, we don't care how much money you make, and we don't care what platform you're on. If you come to our country and cause problems, you will face the full consequences of our legal system. This precedent matters because other countries are watching. Japan has already started cracking down on disruptive foreign streamers. European countries are implementing stricter penalties for harassment content. Even some US states are looking at legislation targeting harmful streaming practices. Johnny Somali might be the test case that determines whether the internet age means consequences don't apply to content creators, or whether traditional legal systems can adapt to hold digital troublemakers accountable. If you're as invested in seeing how this plays out as I am, make sure to hype this video and give it points. This kind of detailed analysis takes hours of research and investigation, and your support helps me continue covering these important stories that mainstream media won't touch. Hit that hype button, and let's get this information to more people. Here's something that's going to make you understand Johnny Somali and streamers like him on a completely different level. These aren't just people who accidentally went too far. These are individuals who have systematically studied what generates the strongest emotional reactions and built their entire identity around exploiting those reactions for profit. Johnny Somali didn't randomly decide to be racist in Korea. He researched what would be most offensive to Korean culture, planned content around those triggers, and executed a strategy designed to maximize outrage. This is sociopathic behavior disguised as entertainment. It's the deliberate infliction of emotional harm on entire communities for personal gain. But here's what's fascinating from a psychological perspective. People like Johnny Somali genuinely believe they're untouchable. They develop this sense of invincibility because they've gotten away with so much for so long. The internet creates this bubble where negative consequences feel abstract. Getting banned from a platform feels temporary, angry comments feel like engagement, even legal threats feel like content opportunities. But forced labor in Korean fields? That's not abstract, that's not temporary, that's not content. That's reality breaking through the digital bubble in the most brutal way possible. What most people don't realize is that Johnny Somali's case is being watched by governments around the world as a test of how to handle the new category of digital criminals. Traditional crime happens in one jurisdiction with clear laws and established procedures. But when someone commits crimes while streaming to a global audience, using international platforms, and monetizing through multiple countries' financial systems, which laws apply? Korea is answering that question definitively. If you commit crimes on Korean soil, Korean law applies, regardless of your nationality, your platform, or your audience. This sets up a potential conflict with American ideas about free speech and content creation. Johnny Somali's supporters argue that he was just making content, exercising his right to expression, and that Korea is overreacting. But Korea's position is equally clear. Free speech doesn't include the right to harass our citizens, disrespect our culture, and treat our country like your personal content studio. This philosophical clash is going to define how international law evolves in the digital age, and Johnny Somali is ground zero for that evolution. Here's an angle that nobody's talking about but should be. What responsibility do streaming platforms have when their creators commit crimes while broadcasting? Johnny Somali was making money through platform monetization while committing the acts that got him arrested. The platforms were taking their cut of revenue generated through criminal activity. Should Twitch, YouTube, Kick, and other platforms be held partially responsible when they profit from content that involves real crimes against real people? Some legal experts are arguing that platforms should face liability when they continue to monetize creators who are actively breaking laws in their content. Others argue that platforms can't be expected to monitor every stream in real time for potential criminal activity. But here's what's interesting. Platforms are incredibly quick to demonetize creators for copyright violations, minor policy infractions, or even controversial opinions. But when it comes to actual criminal behavior, they often wait until after legal consequences to take action. Johnny Somali's case might force platforms to develop new policies about monetizing potentially criminal content, and that could change the entire economics of controversy streaming. One thing that's become clear from Johnny Somali's case is how badly Western education fails to prepare people for international cultural sensitivity. Johnny genuinely seemed to believe that American cultural norms and legal expectations would apply everywhere he went. He treated Korea like an extension of America, with different food and language. This isn't just ignorance, it's a systematic failure to understand that other cultures have different values, different legal systems, and different tolerance levels for disruptive behavior. But here's what's really concerning. Johnny Somali isn't unique in this. There's an entire generation of content creators who view the world as their content playground, without any understanding of or respect for local cultures and laws. The rise of cheap international travel and global streaming platforms has created this false sense that the world is one big, homogeneous content opportunity. Johnny Somali's case is a brutal reminder that cultural and legal boundaries still matter. Let's talk about something that gets lost in all the drama and legal analysis: the real people who were harmed by Johnny Somali's actions. Every person he harassed, every cultural site he disrespected, every community he disrupted, these weren't NPCs in his content game. These were real people going about their lives who suddenly found themselves unwilling participants in his monetized chaos. Imagine being an elderly Korean person, minding your own business, and suddenly having some foreign streamer harassing you while thousands of people watch and laugh online. Imagine having your sacred cultural spaces mocked for entertainment. The psychological impact of this kind of harassment is real and lasting, but in the controversy content economy, victim impact is treated as irrelevant compared to view counts and engagement metrics. Korea's harsh response to Johnny Somali isn't just about punishment, it's about sending a message that they will protect their citizens from being exploited for foreign entertainment. Johnny Somali's case represents a turning point in how society handles the intersection of content creation and criminal behavior. For years, we've operated under this assumption that it's just content somehow makes harmful behavior less harmful. That filming something and putting it online creates some kind of protective bubble around the creator. But what Johnny Somali is about to experience, potential months of forced labor with no cameras, no audience, and no monetization, represents the complete collapse of that protective bubble. This is going to change how content creators calculate risk. When the potential consequence isn't just losing followers or getting demonetized, but actually losing months or years of your life to manual labor, the risk-reward equation changes completely. We're about to see whether the content creation industry can self-regulate and move away from harmful controversy content, or whether legal systems around the world will have to step in and force that change. So here's where we stand with Johnny Somali, and why this case matters so much more than just one problematic streamer getting his comeuppance. Johnny Somali thought he could treat Korea like his personal content playground. He thought cultural boundaries didn't apply to him. He thought consequences were just part of the cost of doing business in controversial content. He was wrong about all of it. What's about to happen to Johnny Somali, potential forced labor in Korean fields, picking cabbage for kimchi, doing industrial work with no cameras and no audience, represents a complete paradigm shift in how the world handles digital troublemakers. This isn't just about justice for one person's crimes. This is about whether the internet age means accountability doesn't apply to content creators, or whether traditional legal systems can evolve to protect their citizens from being exploited for foreign entertainment. The ripple effects are already starting. Other problematic streamers are watching nervously. Streaming platforms are reconsidering their policies. Countries around the world are looking at Korea's approach as a model for handling their own digital troublemakers. Johnny Somali wanted to be famous. He wanted to be talked about. He wanted to make an impact on the world. Well, he's about to get all three, just not in the way he expected. The age of consequence-free controversy content is ending. And Johnny Somali is about to become the perfect example of what happens when digital arrogance meets real-world accountability. What do you think about all this? Are you ready to see justice finally served? Or do you think Korea is going too far? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to stay tuned because this story is far from over.